That's so funny.
Cross the line drawn in the sand. Off we go, we merry band. Hand in hand through canny land. Tonight shallows to greens and yellows of strange bedfellows.
Timmy,
That's good.
my brother here, his underwear.
Completely butt-ass naked.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, long time no
side to
see,
side.
but I'm glad you're doing good.
No, he does that sometimes. I think he's intimidating me sometimes. He'll be like, "Oh, I have to take a shower, but I don't have time to change."
Let me walk around the house first. Yo, you traitor.
Culinary school.
You left us?
Yeah.
You left us for fucking
Get him.
an Italian nightclub?
Italian guy.
Yeah, it sounded like a nightclub. You were like, guys.
Paradiso.
He's like $3 Jägermeisters. I'm like, yo, this place looks lit. I was
Yeah.
looking at
It's
it.
not like that at
He's-
all, dude. We went to the... Gerardo and Jenny came.
They actually, dude, I would have camped out.
But it was
wasn't
like
working. That's cool.
It was like me and like
Nice.
7 people that I invited.
Was TJ there?
8 people came. No.
Okay,
But
I just saw a
anyways.
picture of you and him.
These older people were like pissed because we like... There's like probably average age like 60 old people. And like we came into their party and like started playing like rap music and like...
You
They
took
were,
the ox.
they were slow dancing before, and then they didn't know how to dance to like the new music.
The
And,
clash
they
of
were-
generations.
Like they had the clapping contest for the uniforms, and like they were like ooh, and then me and Shane went up and
Nothing?
nothing.
Oh. What
And
did-
Gerardo and
Whoa, whoa, whoa. I have no idea who Gerardo is, and I've never met them. But this is my interpretation of their childhood, growing up at the dinner table.
Finish your wine, Gerardo.
You.
Finish your wine, Gerardo. Drink your wine, Gerardo.
I don't have one.
they're so ageist.
Yeah, millennials.
That's
do
it,
that
guys, both-
sometimes, but you know. we're-
Yeah, and no, but even from millennials, like millennials themselves will be like, yeah, I'm not lazy. I'm hardworking. It's like
Yeah.
everybody's hardworking. It's
you know,
it's just a
it's-
matter of whether it's by choice.
It's like
You know.
the excessive use of our phones is like a common characteristic of our generation, but it's also making us more efficient in a kind of way. But it's also, it's making us more efficient, but it's also making us more idle and more like docile in a way. Like it's domesticating us in this way that we don't even realize. Like we are building our own prison, but we're also communicating faster, learning faster, you name it. Every communication and travel is as fast as it's ever been, but we're also as idle as we've ever been. We don't. Social interaction isn't necessary in today's world. A man can almost live on an island nowadays, if he so chooses to.
So I would say the gain with like the smartphones is that we're cut off at that most meaningful level, which is to have a real full presence. But we have more choice, whereas like.
And that's a knock on millennials that I'm just like,
Mhm.
all right, like I'll grant you this, but at least acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Can learn so much faster, and we
And-
actually do apply that.
And another thing is the assumption when it comes to millennials that the asocial world that we live in, or engage with the way that we do things is that means that millennials are intentionally asocial. But I think there's a lot that shows that millennials are hungering for a more social. And what you could, another way to see it is that it's actually the baby boomers that's the most like asocial, sociopathic generation ever, because they created the actual, like the if you think about those technologies, they were the ones who, it was Steve Jobs that made that. It wasn't me. It's just like, sue me for using it now.
Right.
It's not. Where's the choice? To use it.
Exactly. And it's
what you have is like the younger movement with like the Bernie Sanders movement, which is about a big society that's connected and where we take responsibility for each other.
How many presidents do you think would have tweeted back in the day had Twitter existed?
Well, we had FDR had the fireside chats. Think about it. For his time, when he was running, and he started doing that when he first started campaigning. I think he started doing that when he was governor of New York, actually. And I think to a lot of people that was almost like cheating. Like they're like, hey, you're supposed to be just in the smoke-filled room plotting with all the other, barons of industry. You're not supposed to be like having a warm, friendly chat with like the population. Well, radio was the Twitter at that time.
And some of the more outspoken people, like, oh yeah, that guy would have definitely had.
William Jennings Bryan would have tweeted like crazy.
Oh, he would have been. Anyways, there's this talk, speaking of millennials, Simon Sinek, have you heard of that viral video that went off? It was
is that the one?
Millennials in the workplace.
So patronizing. He has the book with smells in it. You know what I'm talking about?
He
tries to sell the book with smells.
That's the book he's pushing. And
I hate this guy.
No, when I first
him.
My dad first showed it to me, and I'm like, wow, that was very insightful and like really thoughtful. I'm like, wow, I never thought about it that way, Mm-hmm. And then I like really thought about it. Like I watched it after I watched it, it went viral, and I've seen it a few times.
And then at the end, he tries to use his whole shtick, which is like clear. It looks like he's like so well acted. Like I can tell almost like he rehearsed it.
It's almost rehearsed.
It seems and then he tries to sell this like smell book.
Exactly. And that's
I'm like, what the fuck
Anytime
is this?
someone tries to sell you like a how-to guide or like a self-motivation book, self-help book kind of thing, people often try to disguise it at first with like a little anecdote.
No, he does that. He did that whole thing where he's like, millennials are socially retarded. Can't work. They have no work ethic. They're really the worst scum of the earth. Terrible human beings, but it's not their fault.
It's not their fault. They were dealt a bad hand.
But you know what? It's not their fault somehow that they made bad choices and are bad people. And it's almost like the double speak thing.
Yeah, and he's like, I have the solution to fix the millennials.
And nowhere is mentioned the economy. He talks about rationing people's use of computer technology. He makes a comparison to no, this isn't a talk of a teenager on social media being the same as a parent opening up like a liquor cabinet and saying go for it. Yeah, it's like,
wow, he cannot get more dramatic than that.
The implication is to ration people's.
You know what? I bet you if I stopped him on the street, he would have his phone in his pocket. Remember, one of his things was...
but he's a generation up, so he learned the social skills necessary for the foundational.
Right. That's why when he goes out with his friends, he leaves all the phones at home. Only one friend brings a phone in case of emergencies. But I'm like, that's kind of odd. That's kind of an odd policy to have if you're the generation that learned all the social tools that our fucked up millennial generation hasn't learned. So why do you guys leave all your phones at home? Can you not like have it in your pocket without like checking it, or do you guys almost like an addict need to like lock it away somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then like because you have no self-control of your own, you're kind of contradicting your own point if you are the generation above us.
No, I mean I mean my parents, they're on that. My dad, for instance, he's constantly looking at like stock videos on his like iPad. You know, it's something he does. Like
wait,
it's like a ritual.
Stock videos of what?
Like you know, like if you're interested in investments or things
so
like that, you know,
stocks.
you can yeah. But whatever his like, it's the same as me turning on my YouTube for whatever channels that I like. You know,
like
he does that. You know, like it's just, so yeah. And I also had this thought when I was. I mean, I'm not saying there's no differences. I'm definitely not saying that. I'm just trying to put things in proportion. But
we've just oftentimes our parents, they use technology just as much as we do. I'm pretty sure my dad uses
it hit everybody.
Yeah, my dad uses Facebook more than I do, most likely.
You also get young people saying nostalgic like stuff too, like
because like especially
the false golden age thinking, you know.
I think for the majority
nobody
of us,
lived through World War II who's really a lot like unless you're like almost dead, you know, like the kind of nostalgic thinking. It is fantasy. It is something that young people have access to, and
it's like something that's far away and it's so distant that we just kind of like grandize it, but we don't really think about it. Like, you know how hard it was to live in the 1920s. Like, you know how hard it was to get like a gallon of milk or like.
But go ahead, you can have a say.
Oh no, I was just wondering. I didn't see a microphone.
Oh yeah.
It is kind of funny how like I don't mean to like think of people who are like older as different, but I do, you know.
Yeah, like the ageist dance you just described.
Yeah, I mean, like, they don't know how to dance to the music that's out now. The only music they know how to dance to is, like, well, the only really dances they usually know how to do is just, like, what, you know, the rocking side to side.
Yeah.
And, like, those types of music. And then it's kind of the opposite with our generation. We don't really know how to...
We don't really know
how to dance like that.
We just, have sex on the dance floor.
if you go to a high school,
with clothes on, it's just like humping with clothes on.
Literally,
it's very primitive.
Those Jamaican dances.
Oh, that's even
like
that's literally
like flip them around,
dude, breaking them in half.
What I've thought about this like recently, and like one of the things that made me think of it is like in the kind of like 70s, especially like early 80s, there were bands that were kind of satanic in their appearance, in their like aesthetics, like they're like, think about like Kiss or something like that, or
Judas Priest.
Yeah, so it was really popular, but I sort of think that there was an almost a greater innocence to it in retrospect than there was perceived at the time, and I always feel like that's how rebellious movements are. There's always a very like almost minimalistic. The newer generation wants a little bit more freedom, wants its own space, and it creates that by alienating the older generation. But its actual intentions are not actually that different. You know, they're not actually like drinking the blood of children or, you know, shooting police, or they're not doing these things. They're just acting. They're putting on this facade so that they can have that space.
Most, like, outrageous thing that I can
exactly.
piss off
Well, it's almost as if these are the worst fears that are projected on them from the older generation, maybe, and they're actually conforming to the exaggerated identity that's being hoisted on them already. Like, they're like, oh, you know, these people, they're like Satanists, you know. So it's like, fine, you know, I'll really do it.
I'll do it.
You know, it's and when you see it that way, it's like a lot more about just the creating a space for yourself, or trying to rebel for the sake of rebellion, as opposed to actually being,
dude. And
you know,
the thing, I mean, I don't know where I'm taking this, but the phenomenon of like mass shootings used to be like predominantly like 30 and under, as far as like it's the big ones like Columbine, Virginia Tech, all of these, but now you see like a lot of the shooters are older, like really old, like the
Vegas
Alexandria baseball game with the Republican senators. That guy was 68 years old. He shot like 2 senators and a few other people, and they killed him. And then the Las Vegas guy was like 70 years old. I just thought of that, like the most outrageous thing that like the younger generation like plot schemes up and like I'll actually do it, and then like somebody does something like absolutely insane.
I wonder if it's actually connected to suicide, because that age group that you mentioned is very at risk of suicide.
The older generations.
Yes, that because I think the younger generation, there's just more aggression and there's more impulse. Less impulse control. But in the older generation, there's a lot of despair. Especially, I think there's men who've been alienated from their families.
Oh yeah,
I think that's a very common.
Especially at that old age. At a young age, you have a very tumultuous, like, emotions. Your emotions are very tumultuous. Your personality's all over the place. Everything's all over the place when you're young. And
It's more chaotic.
And it could end chaotic as this phenomenon. Because I think mass shootings have definitely... They weren't well known until like the late 80s, early 90s. And they really started becoming a thing. Terrorist attacks as far as suicide bombing.
Do you know about the difference between the reporting on them or the actual frequency on them? Because I always start to think about, oh, well, this is happening more or whatever. But I always think to myself, I don't really know.
You rarely see someone in like their 30s and like their medium.
Most productive years.
Yeah,
it's always before or after that. And we all. It's kind of funny because as individuals we age separately, but as a society we age together, because there is this. We live in one world, and how easy is it to forget? I mean, what's more real to you, what you lived through, or what you're living through now? And we have a lot of shared experiences. In our own time, so you have a lot of shared experiences with people who are quite old. I was on the technology part of it on my YouTube channel. This thing came up. It was these people who were over 100, and it was just asking them for life advice. And I was like, you know what? I'll just watch it, because I was like, I don't think I'll ever hear like 15 people who are over 100 say what they gained from their years in one piece of advice. But this one guy, he told this story. He was listening. It was like living through like the jazz age. So that's when in his youth he was living in the jazz age, and he would stay up with his radio all night until like 3:00 in the morning, just addicted to listening to this great music. And then he couldn't get up for his parents would try to get him up for school or for his job in the morning. He couldn't get up. He couldn't make it out of the door because he was so tired, because he spent literally the whole night listening to jazz. And I just thought that's exactly what people do now.
That's some hardcore dedication.
That's exactly his addiction to. So I think there is a treadmill thing to it where people will say there's this big bad new device that's going to really transform human nature, and we better be scared. But human nature itself has its own limitations, and people have always had obsessions, and their obsessions have always prevented them from fulfilling their goals.
Exactly. I mean,
yeah,
we're animals at the end of the day, and habit and tendencies and cycles is what we breed off of, and that's never going to change. And it can, I don't know how much more technology can advance, but I feel like we'll navigate our way, I guess, on a positive spin. We're not going to just become like cubicles, and we just do away with parks. We do away with because I think the more we go into Silicon Valley, the more there's going to be a movement to get away from Silicon Valley.
Yes, I mean, and it's not, our society is not, it's not all by consent. A lot of it is capitalism. A lot of it is when people are separated, they can be controlled more easily. divide and conquer, so blame the victim. You know, it's classic blame the victim stuff. Like, this is the world we live in is partly a world that we've made, but it's partly a world that has been thrust upon us by enemies of humanity, right? In my view. But
Yeah,
And the yolks and the brown eggs are always really rich,
yeah.
much richer. I can't stand those from the grocery store. Oh my God, they're pale.
I
And
use
throw
them.
them in the trash can.
Hey, the good thing about them is the eggs crack so easily. Like, that's the one good thing about
Well, let me give you
store
a
eggs.
secret on how to do that.
What?
Okay? Yeah. Only an older egg will crack and peel that way. A fresh egg will never peel that way. It has to be at least 2 weeks old. Then boil them and salt. The salt gets the shell to peel better.
All right.
I put about
That's good advice. I'll use that.
salt in all my boiled eggs and then I roll.
Okay.
I don't crack them. I roll.
Interesting.
And then it just pulls off. on
I'm
both
using
sides.
that technique. I'll yeah, okay.
But now
'cause
you can't get those.
Yeah.
You got to roll until.
I got you. I'll do that.
But older eggs peel better. Fresh eggs will not.
I'm learning, man.
I mean, that was just, nobody likes peeled eggs or fresh eggs. They just won't do.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I got it.
You got to remember, I've lived a lot longer than you.
Yeah. All right.
I've lived a lot longer than you.
Yeah. All right.
I've lived a lot longer than you.
Yeah. All right.